IAS Academy. My name is Shubham Sagar, and in today's news of the day, we'll talk about an article which is there in Hindu, which is related to Budget 2024 as the name suggests. Long on intent, short on details. As the name suggests, the budget or this particular article is critical in nature. And we already have so much data on budget. Prateek sir has made a video yesterday on detailing different schemes related to budget, different proposals related to budget. So all these things have been done, and you may have seen other videos as well. So in this particular article, or via this particular article, we are more concerned about different terms associated with budget. What are different types of deficits? What do they mean? What is revenue budget? What is capital budget? What is revenue receipt? What is revenue expenditure? What is capital receipt? What is capital expenditure? All these terms we'll try to understand, and we'll also have a look at this particular article. So in 2021 only, not very long back, they have asked this question: distinguish between capital budget and revenue budget, explain the components of both these budgets. So we need to understand not only different data, but also different terms associated with budget. So budget 24-25 speech has touched upon different domains, and there are very good things associated with this budget, and there are certain criticisms also, and that happens with every facet of life. Whoever you are, there will be some good things and there will be some bad things. So criticism is a part and parcel of life. That's what I want to say here. So more about this news. We in India, we are talking about Viksit Bharat at 2047. We want to be a developed country by 2047, and this budget has talked about it in detail. And they are also saying that we expect future budgets to adhere to the goals so that we can become a developed country by 2047. Right. Then unemployment. We keep on talking about unemployment. We keep on talking about different categories of jobs and how many crore people are applying for it. So government has acknowledged unemployment as a problem. Different kinds of unemployment we read about: disguised unemployment, structural unemployment, frictional unemployment. All these things are there, right? And government is acknowledging it, which is a good thing, because once you acknowledge, then you will do things to rectify it. And government is listing initiative as well. Fiscal continuity, fiscal deficit. So here is a term. So via this article, via this news of the day, we'll be covering different types of deficits. And before covering, like if you want to cover these kind of deficits, now we should be understanding this government budget and different components of government budget, which was asked in UPSC 21 mains, right? So let's come back. Fiscal deficit, government is targeting it to reduce it to 4.9% from 5.1%, and by 2026 fiscal year, we want to reduce it to 4.5% of GDP. Now, fiscal deficit, you keep on hearing about these terms. To understand these kind of different deficit, revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, budgetary deficit, we need to understand this particular slide. Government budget, different component. One is revenue, second is capital. In revenue, receipt, money is coming in, receipt. Similarly here, capital receipt, money is coming in, but via different means or via different ways money will be coming. So revenue receipt, how money is coming here? Taxes, direct tax, indirect tax, that money will be included in revenue receipt. Then non-tax revenue, dividend profit. So government has stakes in different PSUs, PSEs, so dividend profits they are getting, interest on loans, and then they're giving loans to, let's say, different countries, Bangladesh, etc. Not grants, but loans. Interest will be included in revenue receipt. But loan is there, loan is not here, loan will be there in the capital part. And then fees. During the COVID period, if you are not wearing masks, so state governments are imposing some fine and fees. So that is also here in revenue receipt. Money is coming in. Revenue expenditure, here you can include salaries, pensions, defense, all these expenses of government, that will be inside revenue expenditure. Capital receipt, so here whatever loan we are taking, whatever loan government is taking, this investment, government has stakes in different public sector enterprises rather, and let's say they are selling some stakes. So disinvestment, that will also be included in capital receipt. These are important terms. And then capital expenditure, more or less here, let's say government is building some roads and all those things, capital asset creation, that will be under capital expenditure. So hope you're understanding some aspects of revenue budget and capital budget. So there is one term, revenue deficit. So revenue deficit means when your revenue expenditure becomes greater than revenue receipt. So that is revenue deficit. Then capital deficit, if we read about, so capital expenditure becomes more than capital receipt. Then there is budgetary deficit. Budgetary deficit or budget deficit is when you are adding both your revenue receipt, capital receipt, revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. In that scenario, your total expenditure is more than your total receipt, that is budgetary deficit. So generally, when you have some budgetary deficit, you want to make it to zero. So you will borrow some money. That particular borrowing is known as fiscal deficit. Okay. So now you have borrowed some money, you will be paying some interest on it. If you want to remove the interest to get your net borrowing, so borrowing minus interest payment, that will be giving you primary deficit. So here we are talking about some key terms, and you have to watch this particular video multiple number of times. You will get a hang of it. So revenue deficit, as we have seen in the previous slide, revenue expenditure minus revenue receipt, that is your revenue deficit. Budget deficit, here you are including both the components, both the receipt, both the expenditure, and this is a deficit. That means your total expenditure is more than your total receipt. Now you want to make your budget deficit zero, so you will do some borrowing, and that borrowing is fiscal deficit. Now from that borrowing, if you reduce the interest which you are paying on that borrowing, you will be getting the primary deficit. Please understand these terms. Multiple questions have been asked in different exams. Now trade deficit and current account deficit is not associated with budget per se. It is like trade deficit when your import is greater than your export. And current account deficit, CAD, it is related to the BOP, balance of payment, current account, and capital account. In current account, you have import, export, services, transfers. So that thing, that current account deficit, again, you are importing more than what you are exporting. So these four terms especially, you should be knowing about it, and your concept should be clearer after this particular video. Revenue, budget, fiscal, and primary deficit. Then criticism of budget 24-25. So we have seen some terms, we have seen some key terms which we should be knowing if you want to understand any particular budget of any year, not only 24-25, any year. And one more thing I keep on telling you, that this is budget 24-25, then the economic survey which has been released of this year, that is economic survey 23-24. It is not 24-25, it is 23-24. So that's how you name it. Why it is named economic survey 23-24? Because generally in economic survey, you are assessing the performance of the previous year. So economic survey 23-24, budget 24-25. Please understand this. So criticism, our government is currently relying on private investment. Public investment, capital expenditure is more or less static. That is one of the criticism given by the author of this article. Industrial sector, not many initiatives have been seen for sectors like railway. Then education and health sector, according to the author, has been comparatively ignored in this particular budget. And urban-rural balance, there is a continuous need. Like you have Manrega, which is, some people say that is right to work in rural areas. Many scholars are talking about right to work in urban areas. We need a similar kind of scheme. So this author is saying that we need a better balance between urban and rural economies and a clear distinction between job and internship. So these are some criticism. And the conclusion is more detailed and bold steps. Yes, we want to become a developed nation by 2047, but we need detailed and bold steps. Only saying it will not help us attain it. And more detailed and bold steps towards achieving the 2047 vision could have been outlined in budget 24-25. Again, there can be criticism. There are so many good things about it. So criticism is a part and parcel of life, as we have discussed. So yeah, we should be taking this criticism with a pinch of salt, or not with a pinch of salt rather. We can only always work, government can always work on these criticisms, and you can never satisfy all, and that is what is the basic learning from this budget 24-25, right? And please understand the key terms which are given or which we have discussed. These key terms are very important. Data is important, but the key terms, they will always remain important, because data may vary, but the terms are constant forever. So that's it for this news of the day. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe, and keep watching Narayana IAS Academy channel. Thank you.